everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I need to solve a very common reader's dilemma, which is what to read next, and I wanted to solve this today with a classic try a chapter tag. I filmed one of these once before, and I ended up just hating all of the footage, so who knows if you'll ever see this. But I've got some books and I cannot decide between them, so we're gonna give all of them a shot, see what happens. As you can see from the pitch black, it's nighttime. I've got a candle going. I also have my dinner that you may see me snacking on at some point during this video. I'm very excited. I went and I got my favorite thing in the world, which is poke. Doesn't that look good? It's so good. I'm so excited. And I'm gonna be snacking on that and reading some books. Which books, you ask? Well, let me tell you. For starters, I have A Keeper by Graham Norton. This is a book about a woman that's kind of returning to her home in Ireland, and in returning she is like learning more about her mom. I think there's kind of a mystery element, and I know that we do get her mother's perspective like in alternating chapters, but I don't really know anything else. I like to go in pretty blind on most books, but that will be one that I'm gonna give a try. There's also Midnight at the Electric by Jodi Lynn Anderson. This is a book I had never heard of, but it was a staff pick in the library. I have not had fantastic luck with the one staff pick book that I did pick out. I actually hated the book, gave it 1 star, so we'll see on this one. It sounds like an absolute doozy of a novel, even though it's not that long. There's 3 different perspectives and timelines and settings. One is in Kansas 2065 with Adri, and I think she is going to Mars, or would like to go to Mars. I think she's about to be like selected to go to Mars. And then we're also looking at Oklahoma in 1934 with Catherine, who she's in the middle of the Dust Bowl, and she is wanting to kind of break out of her family farm. And then we also have a timeline in England in 1919, and we're recovering from the First World War, and we're following Lenore, who her brothers died, and she's pretty upset. So how these are connected, I don't know. I'm a little worried that this book has bitten off more than it can chew, but I really want to give it a shot, so we'll see how that goes. Next we have an old YA classic from the early 2010s. We have The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd. This is about a girl whose dad is crazy, and he's been kind of exiled to this island. She finds out he's not doing too well, goes out to see him, and sounds like he's been doing some experiments on animals and has accidentally made a monster. Classic dad move. This book is the longest out of the bunch. It's also the only YA out of the bunch. Unless this is YA. Is this YA? Oh wait, never mind. This is YA apparently, so you couldn't see that. This is YA as well. I just finished a YA book. Did not like it. So my tolerance for YA shenanigans is relatively low at the moment. And last but not least, we have Blacklands by Belinda Bauer, also a book that I had never heard of before I saw it in the library. It wasn't a staff pick, it was just on a shelf. This is kind of like a murder mystery, but I'm pretty sure it's told through the eyes of a 12-year-old. It says, 18 years ago, Billy Peters disappeared. Everyone in town believes Billy was murdered. After all, serial killer Arnold Avery later admitted killing 6 other children and burying them on the same desolate moor that surrounds their small English village. Only Billy's mother is convinced he is alive. She still stands lonely guard at the front window of her home, waiting for her son to return, while her remaining family fragments around her. But her 12-year-old grandson, Stephen, is determined to heal the cracks that gape between his nan, his mother, his brother, and himself. Stephen desperately wants to bring his family closure, and if that means personally finding his uncle's corpse, he'll do it. And goes on to talk about how he's been digging holes all over, trying to find the body. Sounds very gruesome, sounds very heartbreaking, and I'm quite excited for this one. Even though I don't love the cover, I'm willing to overlook that. This book is from like 2010. This style of cover was a little bit more on brand for that time. I don't actually know which one I want to start with, so we might just have to do an eeny, meeny, miny, mo moment. And you are it. Not it? Not it, right? That's how that works. Okay, we're starting with Midnight at the Electric. tried to kill a bug that was flying around and I hurt my hands from clapping too hard. So, verdict on the first chapter of Midnight at the Electric, while I get started on my poke. It's really well written so far, which is nice to see. I love poke so much. So far we have met Adri, I think is how you say it, and she's the girl that's going to Mars, which, love that for her. So far all we really know is that she'd been hoping to go to Mars for a very long time, and just now got the opportunity. The first chapter was 10 pages long, and it was mainly her driving out to Kansas because she has to live with a relative that's willing to house her nearby, like the training space program place. So she made it there, she got settled in, and she did happen to find like a letter from Lenore, who's the one in like 1919. So already like a little smidgen of a connection between the characters, which is exciting. But that was pretty much it. I mean, it wasn't that exciting of a chapter, but it was really well written. Like, the writing really drew me in, made me feel like I was there. I so far am enjoying it, and I don't think I would have any qualms about picking that one first, but it is by no means an unbeatable chapter. Definitely think there's going to be another one that's going to pull me in more, so I'm going to put this down for the time being, even though it's really, really good, and get crack-a-lackin' on a different book. Which, now I guess I need to decide what the next one's going to be. Okay, I'm going to stab my chopsticks randomly into a part of this. And if I come up with some tuna, I'm going to do the Madman's Daughter. If I come up with some seaweed, I'm going to do the Keeper. And if I come up with some rice, I'm going to do Blacklands? The one with the shovel on the cover. Okay. Oh, I didn't actually see where it landed. Seaweed. Looks like we are reading a Keeper. The bug is back. No, die! I'm pretty sure it's a mosquito, so he's like dangerous. He's public enemy number 1. So, brief thoughts for a brief first chapter. A little bit of context. A Keeper was, out of all of these books, the one that I was kind of expecting to be, I don't want to say the best, but like kind of the best. This one's the one that I've heard the most about, and I've heard overwhelmingly good things about it. So I think I kind of placed an expectation on it that it's not really meeting yet. In all fairness, the first chapter is 2 pages. However, those 2 pages didn't impress me a whole lot. It was very melodramatic. A lot of like rather cliched stuff. Like the way that the protagonist like talked about his emotions is a little bit overdone. And there was a lot of kind of like a self-pitying, like, don't I deserve to be happy, that sort of thing. And like, once again, it was 2 pages. So really, I shouldn't be that judgmental, but definitely think I'm going to hold off on this one for now. I'm like preemptively mad at myself for deciding to eat this poke and film at the same time, because I now know that most of my editing is going to just be me cutting out myself taking bites of my food, because nobody needs to see that. Okay, for the next one, I'm going to go with The Madman's Daughter, because it seems like a good idea to go YA adult, YA adult. Even though this one is YA, I think it has a slight advantage, because right now I'm filming this at the end of October, prime spooky season, and the other books don't necessarily give spooky. Like, one of them's kind of like a thriller murder mystery, but I would read that at any point in the year. Not that I'll avoid, like, ghosty stories when it's not October, because I'll read them all year round, but, like, a thriller I don't necessarily associate with October versus, like, The Madman's Daughter. I think that has October Halloween written all over it. So, slight advantage there, but I've got a lot of different books to choose from at the moment, so she's gonna have to fight a little bit harder than that. I think if I were to eat one meal for the rest of my life, it would probably be this, honestly. Okay, stop eating and read the book. got right into it with that one. 12 pages long, but quite a bit happened. We started with learning about where our main girl, I don't think I know her name yet, where our main girl works, and she works in this like laboratory. She cleans up like all the blood and the guts and everything. It seems like at one point there was like a scandal with her family. I assume it's something to do with her dad being a little on the crazy side and doing some experiments that he maybe shouldn't have been doing. Because of that scandal, she does not have very much money, and at the place that she works, she's kind of getting creeped on by a bunch of different guys. So that was like the first like 2 pages. Then like after that, we meet her friend who takes her to this like hangout situation with a bunch of these like young med students, and her friend is kind of telling her like, hey, listen, you are somebody of high class, you should like really try and like flirt with some of these guys. When you get married, you will not have that same job anymore, and things will be so much better, so you need to, you know, make an effort. And our main girl is not very comfortable in this environment. A lot of the med students seem pretty dumb and privileged, and she's not really having a good time. Although her best friend's cousin, his name is Adam, and I know that he's part of a love triangle that happens later, because when I read the blurb in the library, it told me that there was somebody named Adam involved in a love triangle. And at one point there's like some guys that are like jokingly asking about like how many bones are in the human body, and they're doing it as a way to like flirt with like her friend, but then like she knows, so she interrupts and says like there's 206, and then like her and Adam make like a bet on like how many bones are in like the human hand, and if like she's wrong, then she has to give him a kiss. And so then everybody suggests that they go to like the college that she works at and sneak in to see some of like the skeletons that they have to count the bones on the hand. So a lot went down. We learned a lot. Jury's still out on whether or not I'm necessarily like enjoying it. I think that the writing's okay. Both this one and Midnight at the Electric were definitely kind of like showing off some young adult tendencies within the writing, which like I do like YA books, but my trust has been kind of damaged by the last one. I don't really want to get into another situation where I'm just feeling like I need to roll my eyes at all of like the YA bads that come up. Because this one came out in 2013, I feel like there's a higher risk for that, because I feel like YA is kind of evolving to like ditch some of the traits. For example, like the I'm not like other girls sort of thing. I'm blanking now, but you know it when you see them. And I feel like publishing has kind of tried to diminish some of those trends a little bit. But back in 2013, when The Madman's Daughter came out, we weren't diminishing anything. We were welcoming it all with open arms. So there's a higher risk there. But I don't think that this one's out of the running yet. I think that I was enjoying it for the most part. And honestly, I am happy to see it just like jump right into the action, because it is a very long book, and I do need to be reassured that I'm not going to spend 400 plus pages just learning about nonsense that I don't need to know about. So I think that it is making a promise to me now that this will be action-packed enough for me to enjoy myself for the 400 pages. And now we're going to move on to our last book, which is Blacklands by Belinda Bauer. At this point in time, it's anyone's game, except for probably a keeper. I think I've outruled that one officially. But because this is the only adult one left, I think that this one actually is set up pretty well now that the keeper is kind of out of the running. So let's see what the Blacklands has to offer me. I'm excited. Alright, so I finished the first chapter of Blacklands, and I have to say, this might be the one. Despite the cover, yeah. It took me a second to kind of get into it. It's a very different style from The Madman's Daughter, which that one is very much like you don't have to read it too closely. It's YA, it's gonna kind of hand everything to you, whereas with this one it was a little bit more like you do have to focus, you do have to like go sentence by sentence, because like they're giving you hints, they're giving you clues for what to expect, and every line has a bearing on your reading experience. So initially I wasn't like in love with it, but the more I read, the more I was kind of feeling like, hey, this one, we're onto something. And as I was like reading the last little bit, I was kind of thinking like, okay, is it better than the other one? Would you want to read this one over the other one? The other one being Midnight at the Electric at this point. And I wasn't really sure, but then I turned to the page to see, just what the second chapter was even gonna be, and like the first line of it is like already just like very much like, okay, you have my attention. So what is this one about so far? It's kind of just setting the scene. We're in like this tiny little English village. It's super rainy and wet and gross. It is not tourist season at the moment. It sounds like nobody really likes living here, but it says that it's a refuge only for those too young, too old, or too poor to leave, which is always an interesting setting to work from. We've got 3 different generations living in this one house. We have the grandmother who, since losing her son, has gotten very suspicious and paranoid. We also have her daughter, who is the mother to the protagonist, Stephen, and the mother's under a lot of stress. It seems like she's recently single and recently living with the grandmother and not having a good time with it, and she's kind of been taking it out on the kids. And then of course we have Stephen, the main character, who has kind of turned his anger towards Uncle Billy, the one that disappeared, and then his younger brother Davy, who's only 5, but already I feel like they have captured the essence of a 5-year-old very well. They were at the kitchen table eating dinner, and he had like a plate of fries, and he was like sucking all of the ketchup off of them and then putting them aside and saying he wouldn't eat them because they were wet, which is just such a 5-year-old thing to do. So I'm excited about this one. I think I'm probably gonna end up reading a little bit more tonight before diving into the homework that I have to do. But overall, I think this was a very successful experiment. I think one of the reasons why my last try a chapter tag didn't go very well is because I tried a lot of different books, and honestly, I only really liked 2 of them, and the ones that I picked, I finished one and then DNF'd the other, and it just kind of filled me with like a sense of hopelessness. Like I was starting all of these books and none of them were actually drawing me in or appealing to me in any way, but with these, other than The Keeper, which was a little bit of a letdown, but I'm also pretty willing to overlook it because it was literally a 2-page first chapter and I probably need to stop being so judgmental. I really do see a positive future with each of these books, despite any like nitpicky flaws that I'm seeing in them. Somebody just came inside. Hi. Yes!
Is it going in?
Yes! I'm almost done though. I did a try a chapter tag. They can only kind of see you. I did a try a chapter tag. I think I'm gonna read this one, even though I don't really like the cover.
Then I will not go through your room once I get my cat.
Yeah, please don't. But I'm almost done. I'm like wrapping things up right now. Anyway, I'm gonna read this book. I'm excited about it. It'll probably make it into my October reading wrap-up, and some of these other ones might end up there too if I've got the time. It's the 24th now, and I've got a couple more days to go, so we'll see. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for another video.